great drummage. And once again, we have a first-time offender, first-time hazing for the wonderful Nick Potters of Spock's Beard and many other projects that we'll talk about. Thanks for joining us, Nick, all the way from your studio in Van Nuys, California, near my old neighborhood. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And I want to give everybody a little sample. So, folks, check this out, and then we'll talk music and drumming. Great stuff. Let's start with more recent stuff. Spock's Beard, a great lineage of drummers that you're now part of. Great band, great music. A modern day prog band that sounds like prog still, which is nice and refreshing for people like myself and our producer Steven, who's really into prog. We have a whole separate show called Yes Shift, and it's all about the band Yes and everybody they've worked with and things like that. So we're really into it. How did you get that gig? How did that come about? I know first you were hired as their touring drummer in 2024 and made a full-time member in 2025. Pretty quick escalation up the ladder there.
Yeah, pretty much. If you want to call touring drummer just one gig in San Pedro in 2024, because that was the only thing I did with them. But it was such a great gig, and I was playing with Ryo Akamoto, just his solo stuff. That was how I got the gig that gig, I had been in LA I think for about a year before when I moved here, and I was reaching out to people to play with. I was looking for shredders and people who were into that kind of music, and Joey Frivola, his guitar player at the time, reached out to me, and I responded, and we met up at that point. It was like a 10 by 10 room at another lockout. We just met up and we jammed, and it was really great. And then we kind of we wrote a little bit of stuff together, and then I think a couple months went by, it might have been, then he told me that Rio's drummer had backed out for what the reason was, and he was like, do you want to come in and audition? I was like, well, obviously, yes, but also I had no other gigs at that point since I had just moved. I didn't really know anybody. I didn't have a network out here at that point. So that was like my first shot. And then I learned his album, and he came to my 10 by 10 studio, and he sat there and just watched me like this while I played along to his record, like sweating my ass off. Like, it was one of the most stressful situations of my entire life. I was also like the first time I met him too, so it was really
wow, that's great.
But I finished, and then he would just go, okay, and then go to the next song, and I had no feedback. I didn't know how I was doing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then
couldn't read his physiology or anything.
No, he was stone cold. It was good, and that was he just said after a couple songs, he was like, all right, cool, rehearsal is coming up, and then that was that. So then I rehearsed, and then the rehearsal was fun because I think that was where everybody kind of realized, they were like, who the hell is this guy? Because I came in, there's a lot of vocal heavy stuff in his solo stuff as well as Spock's, and so I have perfect pitch. So when I come into a situation where we're doing harmonies, really be like, and make sure everybody's on it, and I can like assign things, and we were trying to work stuff out, and I basically just like took charge of the vocal stuff.
That's great. So you're like directing intonation of the voice.
Yeah, and I was trying to do it like in a way that was like respectful, and nobody knew who I was.
Yeah, and not the new dickhead. Everyone
was like looking at me like I had a second head. They were like, and
he's the drummer.
This
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's like, this is the drummer. What are we doing? And so that happened, and then the rehearsals went really well, and then Rio texted me like a week later, and he was like, I want to do a couple of warm-up shows before Cruise to the Edge, and that was the gig that was for, that I got hired for. So he said, I want to do some warm-up shows at Alva's showroom in San Pedro. We can open for Spock's Beard. Do you want to play for Spock's Beard too? And I was like,
yeah. What do you think? Is it a trick question?
Yeah, I mean, like I've been listening to them since high school, so it was like a really amazing, crazy question to be asked. But I was like, yeah. And so then, we curated the set list. I learned the set list, we had a couple rehearsals the day before the show, and then we played that one show, and everybody in the band was like, this feels really good, like this
That's
is great.
great.
Hopefully we can do this again. And I was like, yeah, I would love to. Just let me know. I'm around.
And
And
then how long was it before they called you again? And what was the occasion?
Rio called me last year. He had said something about an album, and I was like, okay, cool, yeah, let me know. But I didn't hear anything, so I wasn't sure. And then he called me around NAMM time. So I was like, I think I was at NAMM. I was like walking into NAMM, and he called me, and he was like, hey, we are recording the record. The deadline, the release date is November, like late November, but we need you to do the drums immediately because Dave Miros, the bassist, is had like some kind of surgery or something for mid-February. And so I had to have the drums done in like 2 weeks. And, I'm like walking into NAMM. I've got like a schedule, I'm like trying to do this stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. So I have to like learn all this music in 2 weeks. And I was like stressed out about it. And then, he sent it. And of course I was like extremely stressed about it because it was very complicated. I was like, oh boy, I'm going to do this. But then I tracked it here, not in this room, but another room I was in around the corner here. And yeah, I just tracked it, and Joey Frivola helped me, he was the guy pressing record for me, and also just a sounding board for when I would get in my head about parts, because I was pretty meticulous about recording the record. I was like, I wanted it to sound really Spock's, but also like me, and paying homage to all the drumming that came before me and just the parts, because that's such an influence. So I was trying to like do it right, but it wasn't like I was winging it. So I was really trying to think about it, and Joey was a great help to press record, so I didn't have to keep running back and forth, but also to be like,
get out of your head doing
I would say, hey, is this fill cool? I'd do a couple of takes of a fill, and he'd be like, yeah, no, like let's listen to which one is cool, or like how would you change this groove? How would you make this groove more interesting? And it would just be like, moving like a snare, a 16th note earlier, and I was like, that's cool. Or sometimes it was like he would give me an idea that was the wrong idea, and it helped me get to the right idea. And so that was really really, it was really great. And then I think it was the second to last day or the last day, Alan Morse came by just to watch me track and, I guess do the same thing. And so his note was my favorite note, because he just gave it the whole day. He was like, yeah, man, just more fills, just play more fills, more notes, play more, everything, just go. And I was like, oh, really? Because this is what I would get fired for in almost every other situation.
Right.
But no, it was great. And, that's the result. And
that's great.
And so the record happened, and then it's been just a slow burn up until the tour. And now the tour is done. And it's great.
That's amazing. Let's talk about that tracking process again. How did the drum sounds come about? Did they say, just do your thing, it's your kit, or did they reference any other albums, whether theirs or someone else's, or how'd that process?
There was no input. I just think that they maybe trusted me to, to do it, because I said I had a studio, and also like, I can record drums. So it's not like it would sound bad. And the main issue was that because of the fires, Rich Mauser lost his house studio, and it was awful. And so it was sort of an emergency that they asked me, like, we need you to track your drums at your studio. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I was working with just what I had here. The room at the time, the last room was like, I don't know, 15 by 15 or 20 by 20, something in that area. And so, and it was just a box with a tall ceiling. And so to get like the really big drum sound that is so indicative of the Spock's tone was not something that I could really do. So I put some room mics like up really, really high. They're like 15 feet. And I messed with it. I tried to, I just placed stuff around. I put like an effect mic somewhere on the floor just to kind of get different options. I just wanted a lot of options. So it was like a 16 mic situation. And I just left it up for like the 2 weeks that I recorded.
Oh, that's nice. And what was your setup like?
Well, it's not really set up right now, but it was just like, 2 overheads. This is the kit. This is the kit. And it's Hendrix drums.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I just had two overheads, toms. There's really nothing special. Kick in, kick out, no beater side kick. Snare top bottom, China close mic, ride close mic, hi-hat close mic, and the two rooms. And then I used like the green bullet. I don't know if you know that one. It's pretty just like, cool little effect. It sounds.
How did that work out? Apparently good.
You want to use it. I like to think of it as like filling it. It's like a little bit of like cement between the bricks. Like all the stuff is there, all the sounds are there, but it's like the thing that kind of is like that whatever factor you're not sure what to do with it. You can mess with it EQ wise, and it's like it just really comes in handy when I want to like fill out a mix.
That's neat.
So that was the setup.
That's great. What's next with Spock's Beard? I think. Do you have some European dates?
Sorry, you're muted.
No.
No, you're not muted.
No.
Hold on a second.
My wife wished she had control. Okay. What's next with Spock's Beard? Do you have some European tours coming up, or is that what you just came off of?
We just did that. It was pretty short, I guess, for their standards and my standard for touring too. It was 9 shows. We were there for 10, 11 days ish, given with extra flight time and stuff. But it was pretty short, and it was a really great run. Like just from start to finish, everyone was super cool. Everyone got along. It was great hangs. We would be finishing shows at like 11 p.m. Out of the venue by midnight ish, and then we would be hanging until 2 or 3 in the morning, and then waking up in the next venue. And it was just like always good vibes. And we did Germany, the Netherlands, we did Scandinavia, we did Norway, Sweden. Forget if I think I'm forgetting something, but
do you have a favorite destination that you went to out of all that run?
Yeah, well, that was my first like Europe tour, so the experience in itself was mind blowing, But I think the big highlight for me was this town Aschaffenburg in Germany, which when we got to the town, Rio told me, he was like, "This is like our home in Germany." Last time they were there was like 12 years ago, and like we played this place called Colossal, and it was a great 500 capacity or 400 capacity venue, I forget, but I know that it was like 500 plus people basically like packed into this room, and cool. It felt like the whole town came out to see us, and it was really an amazing show. The venues, the staff, everyone was super great and accommodating, and
that's cool.
Yeah, that one stood out. The Border Eye has been in the Netherlands has been a bucket list venue for me.
Oh, nice. Yeah, good one.
Venue. So that was really cool.
Did you, if you had to narrow it down to just one, did you discover some food that was just unbelievable that you'd never had before? Or the authentic version of something you had in America, but this was like the real deal?
That's a good question. Definitely German breakfast. It was the most amazing stuff we got. It was at the Border Eye too. They were so accommodating. The breakfast was like this huge spread of sausages and schnitzel and blintzes and the bread itself was amazing. Just everything it was more than I was expecting, and I was just, and I'm a foodie, so like I'm always trying to eat. And
same here.
Overwhelmed at just like what I could, what they were offering. Because also when I tour in America, depending on the guys that I tour with, what's in the rider and what they offer us is not always as consistent.
Right. And I think, like, give me your take on this, and we'll get back to music. But I think for people who've never been out of the United States, they don't understand how much food elsewhere has so much more flavor because of the water, because of the additives, because of our stripped land here that lacks minerals. I mean, I remember walking into a grocery store in Australia. I got 1 foot in and I smelled every item in the produce. I could smell the broccoli, strawberries, oranges, and bananas at the same time.
Yeah. You just go to the produce section and look at it, and you'll be able to tell. But it's, for me, it's just in the stuff like the bread, which I generally try to like not have too much of because I love it so much. And like out there, I was having it every day, and I was like not being affected by the carb load.
Right.
thing there is just way more natural. At least what we were getting was way more natural than, you know, the average stuff here. And so it was like, I went to Italy in September and ate pasta almost every night, and I like
Yeah.
lost weight. It's just insane.
Amazing. It's
It's
so
insane how
different.
that happens.
Yeah, interesting. So let's go from most recent way back to the beginning. Why drums and when? And is that your first instrument and only instrument?
It's not my first instrument.
Okay.
I started on piano actually, you know, and I was like, I guess it was around 4 or 5 when I started taking lessons,
Mhm.
but I had always played because my dad is a piano player himself. He's a great musician, and he would
Mm.
never say that, but he really is. And I get a lot of my stuff from him and my mom, of course. But he kind of would hold my hands when I was a baby and like a kid, and he would have me play chopsticks, and he would like just get me familiar with it. And also, I guess I had perfect pitch as a kid, and had a really good ear as a kid, because when I was like 1 or 2, you know, I could pinpoint a song on the radio. I could like know it was the same band. Uh,
Mhm.
I think it was like "Take It Easy" by the Eagles came on, and I was like, "Hey, is that the same band that goes da 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 da?" You know, Hotel California. And my
Yeah.
parents looked back at me in the front seat. They were like, "That's a different singer. That's Glenn Fry. That's not even Don Henley. Why are you? How did you know that?" And I would just like could tell. So
Yeah.
I already had a good ear from start. So picking up piano, I got a bunch of lessons on piano, with a plethora of teachers, and then I went to college for classical piano and sound engineering. So that was like my major
Mm.
up until college. But I picked up drums when I was like, I picked up percussion when I was like 10, must have been. And
Mhm.
I joined like fourth grade concert band because I just wanted to do something other than choir, and I just wanted to like play. So I was playing bell kit in band, but I also like liked snare drum. And then when I got to 7th, 8th grade, I really like, I think a friend of mine got a drum set, and I was like, yeah, I went to his first lesson with him, and I just watched, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And it was always kind of there, but then when I was like 13 or 14, I started getting really into like going to shows and seeing bands, and I was watching these bands, and like kind of like emo stuff when you're into that, when you're that age. And I was watching these bands, and the keyboard player was just not doing it for me. I was like watching the pianist. It felt like they were faking it, and I was like,
Oh wow.
I'm not like, maybe he probably wasn't, but like I just like I feel like I would fake that if I wanted to do that. And I was
Yeah.
always watching the drummer. I was always gravitating toward what the drummer's doing. It was really cool. And then finally, I asked my mom when I was like 14, 13, like, can I get a drum set? And she was like, sure, yeah. When you get straight A's, like AKA when pigs fly, you can get a drum
Figured
set.
she was safe, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that marking period, it was like 2, 3 months, straight A's. I was a B student. I wasn't a bad student, but I was a B student.
Motivation though.
Yeah, I was like, okay, like sure, no problem. And then it was that marking period. I got it, and they tried to convince me into getting an electronic kit, and I was like, nope, no, I want the real thing. And so, I'm so grateful to them for that, because they're music lovers. I grew up with such an appreciation for it because of them. So they've always supported me. So they said okay, and they got me a Pearl Forum kit off of eBay with a couple of cymbals, and that was what got me started.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Let's show a quick video, see how some of this added up. Check this out, folks. Loads of fun. Let's talk about influences. Who were some of your first drumming influences? And was there a point where instead of more influences in that similar vein, there was a pivot where, oh, this like from John Bonham to Bill Bruford would be like a what? For me, that was one of the things that were just so opposite What was your influential journey like?
Well, so my first, like my biggest pillar is Chad Smith
Okay.
from the Chili Peppers. I
Yeah.
just loved the way he grooves. I love the way he grooves. He's like his pocket is so solid and it's so powerful and like oh, I love the Chili Peppers, but like I think I love the Chili Peppers because of his drumming. And also I really like got into his hi-hat sound, which is like
Oh,
he plays his left foot
yeah.
while he hits and he gets this like really great like
Yep.
thing is not loud, but it's also not just like, chicking on the hi-hat and it's
Yeah.
really like that to me is such a staple of their sound too. So I got really into just the sound of his drums and then I realized it was like his playing and I really I tried to emulate a lot of that. I got his snare drum. I sat the way that he sat, which
Yeah.
is pretty low. And I learned heel toe because
Mhm.
one when
Oh,
I didn't have very many lessons growing up and the one lesson that I did have in high school, the teacher explained you can do heel toe or you can do the slide technique, but he was showing me the groove good times bad times. So
mhm.
I was like, okay, I'm going to do heel toe. So I practiced heel toe. Didn't really make a lot of sense to me. After a week or two, I kind of did, and then it stuck. And I still play heel toe. The slide
Great.
technique is like very, very secondary. Only if I really need to do it. And
Yeah,
even
I
then,
can't play heel toe. It's just so uncomfortable, but I play not the slide technique, but heel up. And Good Times, Bad Times, it's funny you bring that up, was one of the first complicated songs I ever mastered. And I was like 8, maybe 8. I started shortly before I turned 7, and I was short. So my throne was leaning against the wall, and I was kind of barely perched on it with my legs dangling and my toes just so it just naturally heel up. And when I even try to play, not even the hi hat, like even just on the floor right now, it's uncomfortable at the, I'll show you, it's uncomfortable here. Right here, it just feels weird when I go
at
heel
the ankle,
and I
yeah,
play full shoes. These are my favorite things to play, and they're like ballet shoes. And I've got so much flexibility with traction as well. But
yeah.
that's interesting. I don't know a lot of people that play heel toe. I don't think.
Yeah, I found, I really tried to I really tried to get good with the slide. I like because I was listening to, I'd watch gospel players and I'm like, okay, you guys are all like sitting pretty high up and it's all such finesse with the
Yeah.
slide technique.
Some of these speed
Able to
metal
do
guys with
triples
the
and stuff.
is just the swivel is just
Yeah.
like doesn't even look physical. It physically
Yeah, the
doesn't make
swivel,
sense.
the swivel is another one of those things that's like, I can't do it yet. But I still try to work it out a little bit. And when you do it really slow, it's just about like the mechanic of the motion and like how you become comfortable with it. So
Mhm.
like if you do it, obviously like with anything on drums, you do it slow, you can do it fast. So like that's just one of those things that like I'm really you got to really like get in there and do on a microscopic level, like super super slow, and
That's
that's the road that I'm on right now. But yeah, the slide is like I found that I can be more finessed with the slide, but I like my just like there's like a
stuck into
swag
it.
there's a swag and a
Yeah.
thump to the heel toe about like it's like a whole body feeling that like makes me feel the music a little bit more, and I like
Interesting.
like playing that way.
Very interesting. So, who came along with Chad, and who came along that was totally different? If someone did that really grabbed you as well.
So definitely Bonham, just because I wanted to know what the deal was. He's
Yeah.
he's insane. Uh, Danny Carey too was another
Oh.
one. I think in between it was Joey Jordison from Slipknot.
Oh. Yeah.
So that definitely a big departure from Chad. But I had really gotten into the sound of I think it was the Subliminal Verses, whatever their record was. I loved the drum sounds on it. I thought the Tom fills sounded like animals roaring. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
that? And I would try to do what he could do, what he was doing, and I realized they needed a double bass pedal. And so I asked my parents, and they had no idea what that meant. They didn't know that meant I was going to start playing
Or
metal.
why you needed it.
Yeah, they
Not
just
a
were like,
pedal.
they were just like, yeah, sure, so it was another thing, a goal I hit in school, and I got that, and then I practiced, the two up, two down, all the ways, all the stuff that you can do with it, and like, uh, that that was what got me into playing more metal heavy, just heavier stuff, because
Hmm.
I had the tools. Now I can use them properly. Um, and then it was Danny Carey, because Tool was, a big influence. I really liked just the sound. I love Odd Time. I love polyrhythms. And they were the band at, in that mid 2000s
Yeah.
that were really doing it, like, I guess, to the fullest, for my tastes. And so I dove into all of their records. I started playing everything that I could on all their records, and that was really how I learned drums, playing
Mm-hmm.
along to records,
Me too. Yeah. Yeah.
because it's the best teacher, I think.
Absolutely. I love telling this story, but I'll keep it brief. When I sound like an old man. Well, I guess maybe I. Anyhow, when I was growing up in LA and I was a little boy playing drums, I would put on headphones and turn on the hip radio station, which was 93 KHJ at the time. And back then, music wasn't segregated nearly as much as it is now.
Right.
So I'd play and not even realize I was actually playing the different genres mixed together. I might hear Ohio Players, then Neil Diamond, then Led Zeppelin, then David Bowie, then The Fifth Dimension, and my parents always had music on in the house. Simon and Garfunkel, The Fifth Dimension, John Denver, all the stuff that Hal Blaine
Yeah.
played on, and I was learning more than I realized I learned. And I tell drummers that are younger or just starting out, no matter what age they are, to listen to stuff you think you don't like, because you will pick things up and you'll realize where it came from. Like Nico McBrain, what's he known for? He's known for Iron Maiden, but he didn't grow up listening to metal. It didn't exist then. The
Right.
Beatles, he was 10 years old and his two older sisters took him to see the Beatles, and that was it for him. So it's fun to learn what I call the influential lineage of who your heroes are, so you understand where what you like about what they're doing, where it came from to some degree.
Yeah.
Not that they don't have their own skills, but yeah, now it's I guess it's so much more segregated, but there are
Yeah,
some
with playlists and radio stations and
yeah,
stuff, like you can stay within your world musically, and that's cool. But it's like what you said, you would play to the radio station. You're getting a mix of
yeah,
different genres, and that, I think, is just one of the most important things as a drummer, is to be able to play everything. If
yeah,
you can play metal, but you can also play a Latin groove and
yeah,
sound on both, and everything in between, then it doesn't matter how shreddy you are. Like, it
right,
doesn't matter how good you can chop it up. Like, if you can do all of those things really well, even just well, then
yeah.
you will be much better off, and you'll also have, I think, a larger musical palette, bigger appreciation for everything, because you just are exposed to it all.
Yeah, and you'll be qualified for many different other aspects of work than just one or two
Yeah,
things, which is
I'm way more hireable, for sure.
right. Talk about tribute bands.
Yeah, so that became a thing really when I moved out here. After I played with Rio, uh, Jimmy Keegan was on the cruise, and he was like, "Hey, man, you're killing. I need more drummers in LA who can sing and play drums." And I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, I need more gigs. So, like, by all means, recommend me." So I really owe him so much, because, and like, a really nice steak dinner, because he is largely responsible for my work upkeeping in LA.
Oh, that's great.
He recommended me for so much, and now I play with this guy Paulie Z, who has a bunch of different tribute bands. He's got Queen, Zeppelin, Journey, Foreigner, Aerosmith.
Wow.
Doing Bruce Springsteen now. I think he's just starting, like, AC/DC. He's playing a show on at the Whiskey on March
Oh,
3rd.
wow.
Yeah, and yeah, he's trying to do it all, and they're all really good, because all the musicians are really, really just killing, and
That's
everybody
awesome.
everybody is great in their own right. So, I'm a sub for that on drums. That's kind of like what got me started, because the drummer at the time also needed surgery. So I was like,
Oh,
stepping for him, and he was out for a while, and now he's back. I also play with an Eagles tribute band,
oh, wow.
Desperado. They've been around for a long time. And that, I was able to kind of jump into that easily, because back in New Jersey, I was playing weddings. I was in a bunch of wedding and event bands, and that's some of the toughest stuff to just like have to, you go to a gig, you're playing for 4 hours straight with a set list of like 40 to 50 tunes, and
who knows what kind of music the whole audience likes.
yeah, and like there'll be changeovers, like I'm singing on those, and sometimes there's subs out the day of, so you're getting a guitar player you've never met before. It's really really high stress, but if everyone is good and you just trust everyone, then it can be cool. It's good, but also you have to maintain you have to make sure that you're providing a great time for the party, because that's the job.
And on that note, I want to be in a divorce party band.
Yeah, hey, I mean, if there's a market, then
yeah,
there's a way.
Yeah. Hey, let's get to some comments. I'm going to read some comments, relay them to you. Let's see. Sebastian, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Joe Hamar says, what's Nick's background music-wise? We talked about some of that. I don't know how long you've been watching, but we talked about some of that. Which drummers inspire him? His drumming really hit me on the latest Spock's album. A lot of notes, but very tasteful. That's interesting because you talked about how you were told to play more fills, play more notes. Mm-hmm. We talked about Chad Smith, Danny Carey, Joey Jordison, John Bonham.
Yeah, those were a lot of the early influences. But now I feel like, my two of my pillars are Matt Garska and Larnell Lewis. I think are like those two guys, just what they bring to the instrument, to music in general, musicality. They're pioneers on the kit and in drums in general. They're just like what they're doing is so cool. It's inspiring. I have to, like, every time Garska comes out with a new tune, I like generally want to like sit down and try to learn it, because it's just so cool. Yeah,
that's true inspiration. Our producer Steven Shinder says, hi Nick, seeing the band perform at the third All of Us showroom concert earlier this month was such an amazing opportunity for those who got to see. The tracks from the new album sound great live, and there's definitely more backtracking I need to do exploring the Spock's Beard discography. Awesome getting to talk to you after the show. Do you remember meeting Steve?
Oh, of course. Yeah, we had a great conversation. I'm so grateful that he came out. He should definitely delve into all the eras of Spock's. Everything from the year I was born was, I think, the first year that their first album came out.
Oh wow! How old are you? If you don't mind me asking.
33. I turned 34 in like 2 months.
Okay, cool. Great. It's funny, YouTube, I got a note here from YouTube. So I wrote getting to comments now, and YouTube says, YouTube rejected your comment. This usually means they think it's spam. Try changing it a little. Okay, anyway. Kevin Bangers says, watching from Netherlands, just saw Nick live a couple of weeks ago. It was sick.
Thanks, Kevin.
Very cool. Very cool. And Stephen also says, the last few months I've been going back to the food, lowering my bread intake, sometimes getting lettuce wraps or burgers in a bowl. That's great, Steve. I didn't know that. I am blessed with type 2 diabetes. What? Oh. Which I just found out about 7 years ago this July. I've never been overweight. I didn't grow up on candy or desserts. My parents didn't have it. So one of my favorite foods, anything bread, but I love pizza, and I can rarely have any of that. I have 2 big French loaves in the refrigerator because I cut up and I make all these sandwiches and lunches, and I give them out to the homeless in town where we live. And it's like, I so want to just whack off a piece, spread some of my herb butter on it and go for it. But then it spikes my sugar. Not that I would die from that, but it's just I need to keep it under control so it stays under control. So food cravings have been a challenge. But Steve, that's good to hear. Cool. I want to show everybody a video, and then I want to talk about the band that you're paying tribute to here and the drummer and their catalog. Ready? Here we go, folks. Here it goes. Maybe you folks know this song. so cool. So Queen Live Killers was my entry point to Queen as far as getting an album, and I saw them the following year on tour with the album The Game. But I didn't have any of the other albums. And then a friend of mine said, "Have you heard Queen 2?" I'm like, "No, I never heard." He said, "Oh my God." And that album is one of my number one albums to give a nod to as far as how amazing the production work is, their voices, the backward stuff, the diversity of music on that album, and throw in the fact that it's from 1970 effing 4. How did they make that album? They must be time travelers, because that's to me a phenomenal album. There's a big super what's called a super package coming out, or it just came out yesterday maybe, and it's all the rehearsals, it's just isolated tracks, it's all kinds of stuff, and I might have to get it.
I didn't know about that. That's
What's
really
your
cool.
take on the band and their catalog, and what does it for you?
Well, I love Queen. I definitely didn't like listen to them too much, at least not nearly as in depth, until I started playing in the tributes. And
Mhm.
that was only like, a couple years ago. But that really opened my eyes. I was like, oh my God, these guys are like you said, they're like pioneers in the studio. Like what their choices, what they decided to do was really cool. I also just watched on the way back for that the movie Bohemian Queen finally. So it was like, I haven't really delved into any live footage of them, but like that seemed to be like a cool little window into how they came about and what they did, just like how they would write. Freddie would like sit down and he would have all these ideas, and
Yeah.
just like the way that they approached it was really cool. But I guess I would say that I'm still sort of like I'm a novice Queen fan. I don't know. I'm sure I don't know like all of the stuff,
And I don't either, but I know my favorites. And one of the other things I really like about them, oh, Steve Zipp's Queen 2 package comes out late March, I think. Okay, cool. Thanks, Steve. Um, and I only heard this recently. Well, let's back up a step. Listening to Queen 2, Bohemian Rhapsody, all that jazz. And Brian May is playing a guitar his dad made out of a door. And it's like one of the most awesome guitar sounds ever. But a story, who did I hear saying this? It was Brian telling this story, I believe, that they weren't going to do Live Aid. Like they had no interest. They hadn't been really doing much in a while. And Bob Geldof kind of really, really got on them about it. And they said, okay, we'll show up and let's do like a couple, 3 songs. He said, no, you guys got to do like a whole set. And I think they hadn't played in a little while or something. And they literally kind of showed up and just did it. And it's the most beloved performance out of that whole thing. And Freddie Mercury is the only person, I believe, that can ever make a Wembley Stadium audience feel like they're in a cafe or that place where you played with 500 people. He was
Yeah.
just incredible. And when I saw them live, I was so amazed by how physical he was on the stage, how amazing his voice was, and the way he would just jump on the piano, the grand piano, and jump off it with the half mics. He was amazing. He really was. It was such an amazing combination of musicians. And Roger Taylor, with not only such a unique drum sound, but your drums in that solo sound a lot like his drums. And his drums were EQ'd so that you really hear the attack. You can still hear the tone, but very attack heavy. And his thing with the hi-hat, zapping it with every snare hit, gave a whole different sound.
Yep.
Just he had a sound like no others. And I remember in about 1979, someone told me at the music store I used to go to, Cave's Music Scene, it's still there, Loman's Plaza, Tampa, and Victory. And I was taking lessons there, and I brought up Roger Taylor, and they showed me these heads that were called, oh man, they were gold and they looked like micro woven synthetic. Of course, they were synthetic, but they said, these are the heads Roger's getting those sounds, and they're the same heads that are used on Syndrum pads. I was like, what? I had to get a set of them. And it's so weird that really great technology from back then that has not been replicated.
Yeah, right. It just kind of like lives in that one, but it's also responsible for the iconic sound of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, learning the Roger stuff was interesting too because you know I definitely don't play like Roger Taylor, so like trying to really channel the way that he plays those parts. You can't just sit down and like play the groove that he's playing. You
Right.
have to play it like him. You got to play it like you mean it, and
Yeah.
that like to do that was really awkward for me. I don't know. It was just like it was a little bit of like it's not my body language. I guess the
Yeah.
way his choices. They're great. They're brilliant. That was a learning curve for me.
That's interesting. That's good though. You grew.
I loved it. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly.
One more tool in the box.
Yep.
Yeah. Of the Queen songs you do play, do you have a favorite?
Bicycle Race, probably.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
That one's really fun. Like low key, tough on drums when you're singing it too, but it's a really fun song. I love Tie Your Mother Down. That's also just an amazing, it's like super rocking. And let's see if I can remember if there's any other. No, those are probably the two.
Yeah. There's a song we played, this band I was in for 4 years, 15 to 18 and a half or something. We were known as the Zeppelin band before there were tribute bands. There was no such thing. There were no tribute bands like that. And we did like 3-hour sets, and we'd say, so what Zeppelin tour are we doing tonight? 73? Are we doing 77? But we did a handful of Queen songs, and I was quite unfamiliar with Queen. In fact, I think that's why I got Queen Live Killers when it came out a little later. But anyhow, the guys played for me the song Sheer Heart Attack, and I'm listening, and it's cool. I have timpani drums set up with my kit, and in Sheer Heart Attack, there's this break where you just hear this, and he's pedaling it up in tone. I'm like, yeah, we are doing this timpani. I'm sold. Yeah. Until then, I was like, yeah, this is okay. And then I heard that. I'm like, yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fun stuff. Just like you said, innovators, pioneers, and no one sounds like Queen. There's bands where you could tell, okay, they were influenced by Zeppelin, they were influenced by Iron Maiden, they clearly were influenced by the Beatles, but Queen has their own sound, and no one sounds like Freddie or Roger or Brian.
Yeah, right. There's no Freddie Mercury, and just it's the combination of all of them, able to like come up with what they were coming up with. There hasn't really been a combo like that.
Yeah. So what do you have coming up, and do you have anything to promote? Do you hire out yourself to do tracks for people?
Yeah. I'm a session guy here. I track remotely here, or I can go to studios, just depending, whoever needs whatever you guys need, I'm available. But I'm also available for touring, depending on the music. There's some, and also depending on my schedule. But right now I'm working on the second record with this guy, John Anderson, not the John Anderson, but is another John Anderson here. He's a bass player. And also Joey Frivola is playing guitar on it. And so it's his second record of it's bass inspired conical music. So conicals, like the Takadimi, syllabic Eastern. Yeah. So he knows conical, and he writes bass parts based on conical. And so last year he came to me. We met him at one of the Rio rehearsals, and he was just there. He was going to do something afterward, and so he reached out to me and asked if I could mess around with his stuff, just like play along with it, work with it, try to produce it a little bit. So I did, and I turned it into what is his first record. It's called By the Numbers, which is also just me, John, and Joey. And it was in the room here. And we just played, I played live to his bass. I played drums. And then Joey spent, I think it was like a week or two, adding guitar layers on top. But it's this really cool kind of proggy, odd time.
That's neat.
Sounding stuff. Yeah, it's called By the Numbers. Check it out. It's really
for sure.
We're working on the second album now.
That's great. I remember, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago, I was interviewing Steve Smith at the NAMM show, and it was shortly after he put out a video where he's playing drums to Carnatic language patterns, and he's also speaking it, and it was just amazing. I brought it up and he just went right into it. It's so interesting to me. It's really
Yeah,
cool.
it was cool working on that project because John knows conical super well. I don't, but I get it. Once I was a lot of me being like, what's the syllable? What's the syllables for 7? What do you say for 7? What do you say for 5? And then so I would try to translate something that I was doing, and counting it my way. But then I would be like, okay, so how do you say 5? How do you say 7? And then I would speak the conical to him so that he would be able to get how I was playing it. And then that would work out. So it was a little bit like speaking in a foreign language with somebody who's also speaking in a foreign language that you don't know. So it was really, really cool. It was a cool whole process.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But as far as that, like that's the next thing I got coming up. There's talks of Spock's Beard playing Prague Stock.
Oh,
next year. I don't want to be the, I don't want the news to get out about that. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything, but I don't know if that's confirmed yet. So, but that's, as far as I know, that's what's on the horizon. And then, I'm going to try to write a little bit more with them and get some more material out there, because the tour was great and I'm loving playing with these guys. I would love to keep it up.
Great. And I know you're on Instagram and Facebook. Is it Nick Potts Music?
No, Potter's Music, just my last name.
Potter's Music, that's right. Okay, Steve, why don't you put that in the chat if it's not already in the post? Folks, you can follow Nick and get a hold of him if you need a great drummer. So for my last question is the Nick Potter's fun fact question. And when you're totally away from music in those narrow slivers of time, you're not writing, producing, recording, or anything like that, working on your conical patterns, what do you like to do outside of music? What's your thing other than bread?
yeah is the answer, but definitely the big thing for me is gaming. I'll get home from a day at the studio and I'll just kind of like sit down and I'll turn on Halo and I'll just kind of that's my way of decompressing from the day. And it's a nice I've been doing it also since I was like 10. It's been a lifelong thing that I also had to manage healthy habits with too, and I'm still kind of managing healthy habits with. But definitely, like that's a good hobby for me. My wife and I are also big into. We got a couple years ago. We got into Pokemon cards again, which has been very fun, because we were into it as kids. So now we're kind of going back and collecting things that we never had as kids, and it's cool to be able to do it with her.
A friend of mine's son is maybe early 20s, maybe. He's making 6 figures buying and selling Pokemon collector cards.
It's really insane. Like, we did not, get back into it for that reason. But like, since we got back into it in 2023, because I think there was like some stuff came out that was just all of the original Pokemon. So we were like, okay, that sounds fun. And we got into it. And then like within 2 years, everything that we had collected, it multiplied, like times 5 in price. And it was like, it was absurd. So now, we have a bit of a collection, and it's nice to, to just kind of be in it for the hobby and not for the monetary value of it, but we're watching what's happening with it now. It's like everybody's making it. Cards have become so expensive. It's sort of, I'm glad we got into it when we did before now. That's
cool. Yeah, that's really cool. And lastly, I know we talked before we went live, you're Pooch parents.
Yes, we are. Yeah, my dog is my pride and joy. He's my son.
And tell everybody his name.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is his name. Obi is what he's known as. And we like to say he chose it, because we had a couple of names picked out, and we said all of them, and he wasn't really reacting. And then when we said Obi, he kind of looked up. All right, well, that's cool. You chose it, so.
That's great. Well, Nick, I want to thank you for taking time to come on for your first time. I'd love to have you on again. Anytime you have anything going on, just reach out to myself or Steven. We'll get you scheduled. And congratulations on all the success. It's a great inspirational story, and you shared a lot of musical wisdom that I really appreciate, and I'm sure our other fellow musicians out there and music fans do too. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Come back soon.
Yep, and I'm going to show everybody one more video of you with, let me grab the right one, these guys. some really cool grooves there. Okay, one more. This is the other side of the coin, folks. Check this short one out. Kind of an extended cocktail kit. It's like the Prague version of a cocktail kit.
Yeah, that's what the other tributes. I should have said I played before I moved here. I played with this Everly Brothers tribute, which also doubles as a Garfunkel tribute, and that's the kit that I use with them because they're like a pocket band. They travel with Takamine guitars and they fold them up, and they wanted a drummer play with a fold up kit too. So that's how we tour.
That's cool. A band that can go hiking with their gear.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining Nick Potters and myself. Whether you're watching live on Facebook and YouTube or watching it on the archive, stay tuned for more fun Drum Talk TV stuff. You can see our events calendar at www.drumtalktvbrilliance.com. Just scroll down a bit. You'll see everything going on. And we'll see you soon, folks. Hang on with me, Nick.